So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good. So guys, we've had some interesting news. Apparently the Ring Magazine are going to put their belt on the line for the Pacquiao and Spence fight, which really the Ring Magazine's normally on the line when it's number one v number two. They don't normally put the Ring Magazine doesn't normally put the belt on the line if it's not one and two. The one and two in this case in the welterweight division is seen as Crawford and Spence, but the Ring Magazine has put the belt on the line, which is probably rubbing more salt in the wounds of Terence Crawford, who's probably not enjoying the situation right now. And if Spence was to win, and then here's the thing, what I find kind of crazy is that Manny Pacquiao is not officially being reinstated. Now there are rumblings that he will be reinstated. There are rumblings that he's not. Now I saw Ugas come out and say something that, I haven't, I've earned something and you're going to take it away from me. But I felt a little bit disappointed in Ugas' comments, because how did he earn the WBA strap? He got elevated. He didn't have to fight for that. Yeah, he fought for his position in the rankings. But I'm a believer that you should have to fight for that belt. So if Ugas had fought somebody for that belt and they stripped Manny Pacquiao, but they basically made Manny Pacquiao like a champion in recess, which means that they could easily elevate him if he was going to fight an Errol Spence. That was the whole point of putting him a champion in recess. They weren't exactly stripping him, so that they had the rights to make him champion again. And the fact that he's now fighting Spence and Ugas isn't, surely that means that they can make him a champion again. So I don't understand that situation. I don't know what's going on, because maybe the WBA they're having second thoughts, because now Ugas is a champion. They feel sorry for him. They don't want to, because Ugas hasn't got a lot, right? That belt puts Ugas in a position where people want to fight him. He can get paydays. He can get fights. Without that belt, who's going to want to fight Ugas? He's kind of like in the Who Needs Me club. So I feel sorry for Ugas, because that belt would help Ugas get fights. That belt would help Ugas get, some recognition. And without that belt, unfortunately for Ugas, he probably isn't going to get the fights that he wants to get. So I feel for Ugas, because Ugas deserves, big fights. He's a good fighter. I personally think he beat Sean Porter, and he got a poor decision. So I do feel for Ugas, but I don't agree with him where he said he's earned it, because you earn it in the ring by fighting. You earn that belt, the WBA super belt, by fighting somebody. He didn't fight for it. And that's the only thing. He got put into that position because he was the number one, which I don't agree with. I don't think you should just be handed that belt. I think even if you're number one, you should have to fight the number two to be gifted that belt, to be given that belt. Because at the end of the day, Manny Pacquiao earned that belt. It's not like Manny Pacquiao he had to fight Keith Thurman for that belt, and he won that belt off Keith Thurman. So that's earned it. Ugas hasn't fought anybody for that belt. And he's not even defended it. He's just been elevated because they thought that Manny Pacquiao was going to have exhibition fights, right? The WBA thought that Manny Pacquiao won't fight Spence and he's going to have exhibition fights. So they put him a champion in recess, and they thought so the division can move on. But Manny Pacquiao put a spanner in the works, because he ended up fighting Errol Spence. And now the WBA are thinking, oh my God, what have we done? Because now it's kind of like, well, are we going to take the WBA belt off of Pacquiao? But really, if a champion in recess, for me, means that they have the right to make him champion again. That's what I assume it means. Otherwise, surely that's stripping, because they didn't say we stripped Manny Pacquiao. We said we put him a champion as recess. So what does that mean? What does champion in recess mean? So it's a bit of a weird and a bit of a muddy kind of situation, that, if I'm honest with you. I don't know what they're going to do. I feel sorry for Ugas. At the same time, I think Manny Pacquiao should be reinstated, because I think the division is moving forward, and by not reinstating Manny Pacquiao, the WBA actually are stopping the division moving forward, because we'll be closer to that undisputed fight if they do reinstate the winner. And I'm pretty sure Ugas can get some fights. I think it'll be hard for him to get, because who's going to want to fight Ugas? Thurman ain't going to want to go near him. Danny Garcia's not going to want to go near him. Porter's not going to want to go near him. Who's going to want to fight Ugas, man? The guy's like a high risk, low reward. No one's gonna want to fight Ugas without the belt. So I don't know what's gonna happen here. I don't know what's going to happen with this situation. I personally think Manny will probably be reinstated as the champion. Uh, and like I said, rightfully so, because he's not had that belt taken off of him. So, no one's beat him in the ring for, to take that belt off of him. So, yeah, I think Manny should be reinstated. At the same time, I think Ugas should probably made for, mandatory for the winner of that fight, or maybe mandatory for the undisputed winner, so he gets a shot at a world title. The WBA can do that. WBA can do that. They can make him a mandatory for the WBA. So the winner of, maybe even make him a mandatory, so the winner of that fight between Pacquiao and Spence has to fight him. Because I don't think the Crawford fight's going to have it happen anytime soon anyway. So I think they could easily make him mandatory and make it obligatory for the winner to fight him. If not, the winner may have to vacate, which obviously we don't want, because we want to see an undisputed champion. Yeah, so it's a bit of a tricky situation. But in terms of going back to the actual, what I made the video about was the Ring Magazine. So yeah, the Ring Magazine has put this prestigious belt on, only adding more history, and there's more on the line. There's more on the line for a fight of this magnitude. It's obviously, hopefully it's for 3 belts and the Ring Magazine. Wow, that's going to be... This is going to be some fight. And although I do think that, Spence and Crawford probably are seen as the number 1 and 2, I don't think we're going to get that fight. I think the Ring Magazine have done the right thing by putting the Ring Magazine on the line, because Manny Pacquiao was a WBA super champion, and Spence had 2 belts. And so I personally think you could, because at the end of the day, there's nothing to say Crawford's the number 2 welterweight in the world. He may be ranked it, but what's to say that he's the number 2 welterweight? His resume doesn't say he is. So yeah, although fans' consensus is that he's the number 2, when you look at it on paper, there's nothing to really say that he deserves to be number 2, really. So I think the Ring Magazine, although that's gonna again probably make Crawford angry, his team angry, the fact that the Ring Magazine are putting that belt on the line, he may not care. Crawford's a kind of guy, laid back guy. He may not care. He may not care whether the Ring Magazine. He may not even care. Crawford's quite a laid back character. I think he minds his own business, does what he needs to do, and he's content with where he's at. We spoke about this in the live stream. So yeah, great news for Pacquiao. Great news for Spence, because now they get to fight for the Ring Magazine belt. So the winner of this fight, listen, normally when the Ring Magazine put the belt on the line, the winner of this fight will be definitely the number 1 welterweight in the world. I don't think anyone can argue. And now the Ring Magazine belt being on the line will confirm that, because the Ring Magazine belt for me is a belt put on the line, and whoever wins that is considered the number 1. If you win the Ring Magazine belt, for me, you are considered the number 1. You are considered the number 1 fighter in that division. That's what the Ring Magazine means for me. It's the lineal for me, a lineal belt. For me, the Ring Magazine is like some people say the lineal. There's no belt. The lineal belt. You can arguably say the Ring Magazine is the lineal belt, because the Ring Magazine means that normally they put that on the line when it's between the top 2 guys of the division. So whoever wins that belt, whoever wins that fight, will, in my opinion, be considered the number 1 welterweight. And the Ring Magazine will just confirm that. So I actually think this is a great move. And listen, I think all it does is, if Spence was to win, all it does is it makes that Crawford fight even harder, because Spence is going to have 3 belts most likely with the Ring Magazine belt. He's going to be going to the table with 4 belts. He's going to be going to the table with 4 belts, with the Ring Magazine and with all the other marbles. So, Terence Crawford is going to have a hard time getting a 50-50 if he wants that. He's going to, look, with all the push that Errol Spence is going to get from this fight, the hype that Errol Spence is going to get from the fight, if he was to win, I think, listen, if Pacquiao beats Spence, I think he'll fight Crawford, and I think the deal will be a lot easier to be made. I think Manny Pacquiao would want to become undisputed and create history if he was to beat Spence. So I think he'll fight Terence Crawford. I actually think if Spence wins, I don't think we've got any chance of the fight happening. If Spence wins, we might as well forget about it. I just can't see that, Terence Crawford and Errol Spence knocking heads and making this fight. I just don't. I just think I just don't think Terence Crawford is going to agree to anything less than 50-50, and I don't think Spence is going to agree to anything, I think he's not going to agree to 50-50. I think Errol Spence would want 60-40 or maybe 65-35. And Mike made a good point on my live stream saying that he feels that it should be 55-45 because he feels the difference between the two guys isn't that significant. He feels that a pay-per-view difference of 100 to 125, 130,000 is significant. But in today's climate, I think it is. I think what Mike was talking about is the old school days where those guys were doing huge pay-per-view numbers. Unfortunately, in today's time, pay-per-view numbers are quite scarce and small. They're not that big. So 130, 140,000 in today's climate, it's massive. It's massive. No, because none of these guys are Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson does millions. Floyd did huge numbers. But the fact that nowadays these type of fighters, or guys like Spence, Crawford, and all these up-and-coming fighters don't do huge numbers on pay-per-view, 100 and 130, 140,000 pay-per-view swing is massive. Now, Mike also made a good point that the reason why he's doing those numbers because he's fighting more credible guys than Terence Crawford. May be the case, but I still think a Crawford-Khan fight should have done a lot more than 150, 160. I think that fight should have done a lot more, and I think if Khan had fought someone like Spence, I think it would have probably done 100,000 more. Personally, I think it would have done a lot more because, firstly, I don't think the fight was promoted that well from Top Rank in America. And that, I don't know, maybe they're not promoting it well. Whereas I think maybe Fox might be promoting their shows. Who knows, man? I don't know. But for whatever reason, it just seems like Terence Crawford fights aren't getting out there. They should be getting out there more. And, he's only had 2 fights on pay-per-view as well. Spence is now, he's had Mikey on pay-per-view, Porter on pay-per-view, and now he's going to have Pacquiao and Danny Garcia on pay-per-view, and then Manny Pacquiao on pay-per-view. Now, these are stellar names as well, so let's get that out there. These are big names and guys that are still seen as dangerous. So yeah, I feel for Terence Crawford, man. I feel for Terence Crawford. He can't get a break, and it seems like he by having Ring Magazine belt put on the line, it's just making things even harder for him because he's there with his WBO belt, whereas all these guys are they're collecting belts. It's strap season, as Spence says, for him. If he was to beat Pacquiao, he's got 4 belts, 4 prestigious belts as well: WBA, IBF, and WBC, and the Ring Magazine. So he's in a great position, Spence. He's in a great position. But yeah, if he wants to be undisputed, he needs to fight Terence Crawford. So it depends on how much undisputed means to him. It depends on how much being an undisputed champion means to Errol Spence. If it means a lot to him, he may be willing to take a pay cut. If it doesn't mean that much to him, he may say, no, I want my right. So yeah, leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think about the Ring Magazine belt being on the line. Leave your thoughts. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.